Back to work tonight for the Amazins at Cit Field, and they have been amazing the last 3 weeks. Coming off a easy walkover of the Yankees, blowing them out in both games, basically blowing them out in both games. The first game was a 2-run game, but that was because the Mets bullpen faltered in the 8th inning. It was 7-2 coming into the 8th inning, and the bullpen gave up a bunch of runs, including a grand slam to Judge. And they come back now at Cit Field, and now this is going to be, while you watch the transformation of Cit Field starting tonight. You're going to have bigger crowds there. You're going to have more lively crowds there. The fans are going to be into it. It's going to be a building that's going to be alive. Cit Field went from a dead graveyard where you could just pick people off with, bow and arrow in the upper deck because nobody was there. And you watch tonight, you watch the crowd they're going to get tonight. I guarantee that it's close to a full house. And that proves right there, that proves that when you're winning, people will show up. And this team is winning. They are the hottest team in baseball. They are, over their last 19 games, they're 15-4. They're averaging close to 7 runs a game during that stretch. They have hit 500 for the first time since May 7th, where they were 18-18. The last 9 games the Mets have played, they're averaging 8 runs a game. They're hitting 3 home runs every night. Alvarez is red hot. He's hitting 305 since coming off the IL. Vientos looks like the next David Wright, hitting the ball all over the ballpark. Lindor is back to playing like Lindor we know. And the Mets came into that Yankee series with a banged up bullpen. No Diaz because he was suspended 10 games. And it's incredible. It's an incredible turnaround that nobody saw coming. And if you say you saw this turnaround coming, you're either lying or you don't know what you're talking about. Because anybody that's seen baseball, you didn't see something like this coming. This team was dead and buried. It was just, how big of a fire sale is it going to be in the middle of July? Is everybody going to go, or are they going to keep 1 or 2 pieces? Now they're a game and ahead. Now they're a game out of the wild card. Now you got to temper it a little bit because listen, they're only 500, right? It took this type of stretch to get them to 500. They dug themselves such a big hole in May and at the end in April, and with their start, that it took a 15-4 stretch just to get to 500. But now you can start looking ahead, and now you can start talking about playoffs because now they're at 500. I always say you got to get to 500 first. That's the baseline. You can't start looking at playoff races and games back and getting it until you hit 500. They've now hit 500, and it's coming off a blowout series, a 2-game just killing of the Yankees. Embarrassing if you're the Yankees. The Yankees embarrassed themselves again last night. We'll get to that in a minute. But the Mets, unbelievably, and wait till you see the crowds tonight at Cit Field. I'm telling you, wait till you see. It's going to be a ballpark that is alive, and it's going to be a ballpark that's alive for the first time since that first week of the season. And it's going to be fun. And if this team can keep playing, they obviously aren't going to play like that. This clip, at a 15-4 clip, the rest of the way. But now they got themselves back in the conversation, and if they could just kind of play decent baseball, they have a good shot to make the postseason. And when you get in the postseason, like we saw last year with the Diamondbacks, anything is possible. You just got to get into the tournament, get yourself in there, and if you hit your stride, I mean, imagine like the Mets got themselves in the playoffs, right? And the playoffs started, 3 weeks ago. They'd be going to the World Series. Now, I get it. It's not against the best. They're not playing the best, although they did play the Yankees. But they caught the Yankees at the right time. But kudos to the Mets for coming back and really making a season out of this thing. They're now 39-39. They're back at 500, and now you can start looking ahead. This is a big series against the Astros. You're going to have a lot of people there. You're coming up on the 4th of July holiday. You want to keep the momentum going. The Astros are not a great team. They're another 500 team. They're 40-40. They're much like the Mets, but the Mets are coming in red hot. And the question is, how long can they keep playing at this level, right? Can they keep it for another week? Go 5-1 this week? Or are they going to cool off? Because eventually they're going to cool off, right? No, they're not this good. And they've been a streaky team all year. From the very first day of the season, the Mets have been a streaky team. They started the season off with 6 straight losses, streaky in the wrong way. Then they clipped off 13 of 12 of 15 or something like that. And they were streaky there. And then they just nosedived for about a full month of just garbage. To the point where even I was sat here in this seat and was like, get rid of everybody. If it's not nailed down, trade it. Alonso, see ya, the whole thing. They stunk. Well, they found their game, and they remarkably has turned it around. And you know what? Give credit to the manager, who has just been a steady hand through this whole thing. I did not like Mendoza. I was not a fan of his. I felt like he was in over his head. He has just been steady the whole way. When they're losing, now that they're winning, and that's what you need. He's a good manager now. Now I completely turned around on him. I think he's a good manager. So we said that the Astros are in tonight. I'm going to give you the Mets lineup for tonight. This is out. Got it right here. Sent it to me. The Mets sent it to me right away. Personal. First one. I'm the first one on the list that gets the lineups. So here's your lineup for tonight. Mets Astros. You got Lindor leading off. Nimmo in left hitting second. Martinez, the DH hitting third. Pete at first hitting cleanup. Alvarez behind the plate. Taylor. And Taylor's another one. How about Taylor, huh? Coming out of nowhere. He's hitting sixth. Vientos seventh, playing third base. And McNeil hitting eighth, hitting second. McNeil has been the one that has not gotten it going. Let's see if he could join the party here and get things going. And then Harrison Bader, the center fielder, hitting ninth, and Quintana is your pitcher tonight for the Mets. And it's a big start for Quintana. Right? He's been up and down, not great, but he pitched well in a couple of starts over this stretch. You got to keep it going. You're on a homestand here. You want to keep this going. You're playing a team that's beatable in the Astros, a team that's not like, very easy to unlike team with everything that happened with them a couple years ago. They're just they're not liked anywhere they go. You're going to have big crowds at Citi Field. It's going to be a lively ballpark. Mets go in there. They take 2 out of 3. And who knows what the limit is, if the sky's the limit or not for this team. But they are very much in the conversation now for the playoffs. They are very much in the conversation for buyers at the trade deadline. They are very much in the conversation for retooling and getting arms in here that can help them make the playoffs. 3 weeks ago, they would sell everybody. Everybody's going. And yet Steve Cohen has yet to commit to the buying at the deadline. That's fine. Listen, let him do what he's got to do. The Mets, if they keep this up, now what you can't do is you can't go lose 8 out of 10, which we know this team is capable of doing. Okay, it's okay if you cool off a little bit because you're not going to be go 15-4 through every 19 game stretch. It's okay if they play 500 for the next 10 or 15 days, but you can't go 2-8. And now all of a sudden you're back to 8 games under 500, and then you're back to okay, let's get rid of everybody. So the Mets, the Mets, as well as they played, they're still teetering on this could go either way. What they've done is they've given hope, and they've given the Mets fans a season. We're gonna have a summer here, but they cannot, you can't let off the gas at all. This team's not good enough to let off the gas, and the Yankees are good enough where. Okay, first of all, they built themselves a huge cushion, 25 games over 500. They're okay in this bad stretch that they're having. They're still in the lead in the division, or they're right there with neck and neck with the Orioles. They were able to sustain a stretch like this. The Mets now cannot sustain a stretch like the Yankees had, or like the Mets have had earlier in the season. So they got to keep playing well. You got to keep getting clutch hits from these guys. You got to have Vientos has to keep it up. Alvarez, I'm not worried about Alvarez. Alvarez is a superstar. He's going to be a top catcher in this league for a long time. Alvarez, since the day he came up, he's a superstar. And that is important. And he handles the pitching staff. It's just, Alvarez has every piece. He's Only 2 players have hit 30 home runs in their career before in a shorter span than Alvarez. And it's Pudge Rodriguez and it's Johnny Bench. And when you're on a list with Pudge and Johnny Bench and you're a catcher, you're a star. So I'm not worried about Alvarez. He's going to keep hitting. That's what he does. He's just a pure hitter. He's a power hitter. He's an energy. He's a ball of energy. He's going to be on this team for a long time. Even when I was telling him to trade everybody, I wanted to keep Alvarez, and he was untouchable as far as I was concerned. So, we'll see, but you got to keep it up. Vientos has to keep hitting. They got to figure out what they're going to do at second base with McNeil. And they're going to need this bullpen to somehow hold it together. You saw Ottavino fell apart in the first game of that Yankees series. He fell apart he was the reason why that thing got to 2-run game. 7-2. Ottavino starts walking people and giving up hits. And now all of a sudden he's getting called out. He's mouthing as he's coming off the mound, calling his manager an F and D bag. Adam Ottavino's got to be careful here, because he's really not. He's not somebody you're like, we got to keep Adam Ottavino. He's very expendable. He's a very hot and cold. He feels like he's been on the Mets for 20 years. For some reason, I just feel like Adam Ottavino has been on this team forever, and he's okay. He's sometimes good. He's sometimes bad. He's an average to below average relief pitcher, and if he's going to be not involved in this team and with the program, and he's going to be calling his manager names as he walks off the mound with the cameras all over him, he's not going to be on this team. And, I could care less if Adam Ottavino's on this team, to be honest with you. That's not going to be a huge loss or a huge gain if they keep him. It's like, whatever. So he's got to watch. He's got to be careful, because he's going to lose his job. But as far as everything else goes, there's really not much bad to say. It'll be interesting to see how Diaz pitches when he gets back. It's the whole, I do the same thing I do every day. Listen, you didn't do the same thing. He's either lying, which is possible, absolutely. He's not going to come out and be like, well, yeah, I put a whole bunch more on so I could grip it better, and they caught me. He's not going to say. He's going to say, I did the same thing. I don't know what I did. I do the same thing every day, of course. So I wouldn't believe a word that came out of his mouth there, because he's either lying, or he's B. He put more. When he does it every day the same way, he comes very close to the line, and he just happened to put a little bit too much on without realizing it, and he went over the line. It's like if you put sugar in your coffee. If you get 3 spoonfuls of sugar, it's not the same amount of sugar every time. You eat some spoonfuls are bigger, some are small. So it could be something like that. But either way, he's 10-game suspension. There's no fighting it. It is what it is. And the Mets, for some reason, get caught with this thing all the time. I don't know why. They seem to be. There's been 8 people suspended. 8 pitchers have been suspended since they started checking the hands. And 3 of them are Mets. So, let's get it together here, right? I don't think they're cheating and putting, when someone, you see some pitchers that have the foreign substance, like the guy in the Yankees last year. What was his name? I forget who it was. He had the huge, black pine tar thing on his neck. He's going to his, that's cheating. The Mets just, for some reason, can't get it right and putting the right amount of rosin and sweat and whatever else they use on their hands, and they put a little too much. At least what it seems to be is the Mets come right up to the line every time, and then every once in a while you got to go over the line, and that's what they did. And that's what seems to be what they've done here a couple times. And it's big name pitchers. It was Scherzer, it's Diaz. But the Mets can survive. The Mets will survive without Diaz for the 10 days or the 10 games. Because they survive. Because let's be real, Diaz has pitched. He's been bad more than he's been good this year, right? He seemed to be getting it back a little bit. He seemed to be pitching better. But Diaz has in no way been like a lights out pitcher this year. He blew 4 games in a week just a month ago. So they'll be okay. The bullpen's never been a strength of this team. The bullpen will never be a strength of this team this year. You're not going to retool the whole bullpen. And that's, they've been putting it together, piecing it together. Reed Garrett's pitched well. They've been piecing it together over here the last 3 weeks, but Listen, that thing could go south at any moment. The Mets bullpen could go south because it's just as streaky as the team. It was excellent. It was the best bullpen in baseball for the first month of the season, and then it tanked into the ground with Diaz coming back, and then it got better over the last 3 weeks. So it's the Mets. Just every part of the Mets is a streaky team. And you got Quintana going tonight. Listen, go out there, beat the Astros. They're very beatable. You're going to have a big crowd there tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. Citi Field is going to become a lot of fun if this team plays well. And let's hope they can keep it going. Because these last 3 weeks have been incredible. We thought with the Knicks and the Rangers, once they went out, that was it. We start looking towards start going through the Giants and Jets schedule and being like win, loss. That's where we were at. But the Mets have turned it around. They've given us a season. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And the 2 games against the Yankees were just, it was nice. It was nice to beat the Yankees. I'm not a Subway Series guy where I get all, worked up for the Subway Series. That was a lot of fun. Because they killed them. The Mets hit 7 home runs in the 2 games. And for the Yankees, if your name wasn't Judge or Soto, you can't hit the boat if you're jumping out of the water. You can't hit the listen to me. You can't hit the water if you're jumping out of the boat. Then if your name was not Judge or Soto, we're 8 for 55 in those 2 games. 8 for 55. That's like a 170 batting average. You had your 2 pitchers, your 2 best pitchers, Cole and Gill, got slaughtered. Barely got out of the first 2-3 innings. And Gill's a problem for the Yankees. Gill is in 2 games. In the last 2 starts, Gill's ERA has jumped a full run. 2 weeks ago, he was going to be the starter for the All-Star game. He was in the lead for Rookie of the Year. He was in the lead for the Cy Young. He was having an all-time year. They were starting to figure out what to write on his plaque in Cooperstown. And 2 starts later, how quickly things have changed. He's gotten killed the last 2 games. He's barely made it out of the second inning. Now there's questions. Is he getting tired? He's just coming off Tommy John. It's only been a year. This is his first full season. Should we need to watch the innings limit? Cole, I wouldn't worry about too much. Cole just got shelled by the Mets in that game. That's probably just a bad game. But then coming out yesterday and they get killed again, 5-0 before you get out of the first inning. And that game was over. Game started at 7:10. Game was over by 7:45. And nobody on the Yankees can hit. They're not hustling. They're making mistakes in the field. Now they built themselves a huge cushion. So they're able to sustain, be okay, even with a stretch like this. They're able to okay, I mean, listen, they were 25 games over 500. Now they're right around 20. Yankees are all right. They can sustain this. The Mets cannot, which is why it's important and why this series against Houston is going to be a big series. You want to go in there and you want to come back, go home, take 2 out of 3. You're playing better. This is the 35 game stretch. We're still in it. And like we said, a lot of home games. They're playing a lot of bad teams. This was the time for the Mets to get fat, and they are fattening up. But they got to keep staying. They got to keep playing well. So interesting series starts tonight. Citi Field, the Houston Astros, and the New York Mets. I mean, they would the fact that it's going to be a big series for the Mets here is outrageous. Outrageous. They play tonight 7:10, then tomorrow at 4, a late afternoon game, and then a 1:40 start on Sunday. And listen, if the Mets win tonight, you're gonna have a big crowd there tonight. If the Mets can win tonight, and they could take 2 out of 3, take one of the next 2 games over the weekend, then they go play the Nationals, who are no good. A 4-game set against the Nationals. The Mets could really do some damage here in the next week and a half, and then they go to Pittsburgh, where we will be having some fun with Mark Mancini, talking about that series. No Mark Mancini this week. I wasn't around this morning. The Mancini report will be Monday morning. So Monday morning, hopefully I'm going to be doing a show with Brett, though, tomorrow as well. So Monday morning, when I have Mark Mancini on, hopefully the Mets are now 3-4 games over 500. What you want to do now you got the 500. Now what you want to do is you want to put 500 in the rearview mirror. You want to get over 500, and we'll see you. We'll see you next year at 0-0 500. That's what you hope to do. It took a hell of a run to get him here. It'd be a shame if they somehow blew it up and started playing bad again. But it's very possible, because this is as streaky a team as there is out there. So Mets Astros tonight. Quintana on the mound tonight. The rest of the pitching matchups for this weekend include, I'm going to give it to you right here. You got, let's see here. So, let's see. You got Quintana and Bianco tonight. Bianco 8-2, 2.34 ERA. So he's been the best pitcher for the Astros. And then tomorrow you got, let's see, you got Valdez and McGill. McGill coming, listen, let's see what McGill could do. He's 2-4. He's got almost a 5 ERA, has not pitched well, but that's a big start for McGill. And then on Sunday afternoon, a 1:10 game. Oh, no, that's it. Hold on. Let's see here. And then on Sunday at 1:10, you got to be determined. The Astros have not decided who they're pitching yet. And you got Luis Severino for the Mets. So listen, if you could win tonight and you could get the Severino game, that's 2 out of 3. You're in good shape. If you go into the game tonight, enjoy it out there. It's going to be a good scene. It's going to be a good crowd. It's going to be a crowd that's into the game for the first time in a while at Citi Field. Citi Field's a lot of fun when the Mets are playing well, and they are playing as well as you could possibly play. Mets, Astros, 7 o'clock tonight. Quintana against Bianco. Can the Mets stay hot? They've won 15 of 19. They're at 500, trying to put the 500 in the rearview mirror. We'll talk to you later, guys, everybody. I'm Bob Walters. Thanks for listening. See ya.